How do we enjoy pleasures without becoming too attached? Hello, I'm Thomas, and welcome to my channel. I do mainly videos on educational matters. I've written a couple books, and I've done quite a few articles, taught some courses, and I specialize in this thing here called Tree of Life, which you may have seen and heard called the Kabbalah. This is the same diagram, but it's a much different interpretation of that Kabbalah called Tree of Life. Originated, traditionally thought of as an ancient Egyptian thing. And then my interpretation is by way of the West Indies as well. And the book's called Meduna. But I got a lot of my own spice into it, including my 144 Fractal Faculties, which if you want to get a free copy of the annotated version of that, just click the link below. But what the tree is it's got 10 different circles that are called spheres. And they go 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then there's a thing called the abyss here, and then there's also a 0 above the tree. So a total of 12 different categories, which we think of as faculties of consciousness. We've got the animal consciousness here, survival instinct, fight or flight. We've got the domestic consciousness here, what you're getting growing up as a little kid. You're highly receptive, and you're memorizing and imitating what you're learning from your caregivers in your home. A sphere is you're kind of learning from the people that you're supposed to be looking up to in the public space, like your teacher or your doctor, your politician, your reporter. They tell you what you're supposed to believe, and you believe in it, and you rationalize it. You make that kind of like the consensus. They establish a consensus, and you buy into it. They establish the consensus here at the 8th sphere. The 7th sphere is kind of like, where the 8th sphere is the real world, the 7th sphere is the imaginary world. So this is for your artists and your inventors, people who have seen what's going on in the 8th sphere, and they propose alternatives for it. They imagine a different way of doing things, and they try to bring that creative spark into reality. And so this has to do with our pleasure principle, joy, and also our harmonious relationships. This is really taking everything apart and putting them into different categories, whereas this is putting everything together that have similar qualities. And the 7th sphere also is a wedge to get up to the higher parts of the tree through inspiration. When we see somebody acting up here, we get inspired, and that gives us the spark to move in that direction. But that spark of inspiration is only 1%. Genius is 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration. So the perspiration is the actual act of moving up to the higher parts. Starting with the 6th sphere, which is our free will faculty, our ability to pay attention and our ability to make decisions, in particular to pay attention, the decision to pay attention. And by paying attention, we are actually turning ourselves around, where before we were facing down. This is the middle here. This is, if you were looking at a map, it would say you are here. You are here, but you're paying attention to this part of the tree downward. We want you to turn around and start paying attention to what's really in the now, which is all of these categories here. So pay attention and make decisions at the sixth sphere. And you can really tell that you're making a decision at the sixth sphere if it scares you. If you're doing the act scares you, because it's something that you're not accustomed to. These are the things that you grew up being accustomed to. And so when you're having to do something at the sixth sphere, it's like in real time, and you really haven't had a rehearsal. You have to do it, and it's going to be exposed for everybody to see. So it scares you. But if you actually do it, then you can recognize that you can do it, and that fear doesn't have to be a paralyzer. Just because you're scared of it doesn't mean that you can't at least try to do it. So that's a sixth sphere thing. As we move up the tree, we get to the fifth and fourth sphere, which are really where the law, the natural law, where this is like the consensus law. The natural law here is enforced at the fifth sphere via the law of karma. As you sow, so shall you reap. For every action, there's an equal opposite reaction, and so on. And then at the fourth sphere, we have this is the natural law articulated in a Cosmology, a book that explains how everything works together, and in a harmonious Tao. And then also the universal language, universal love, universal law is a fourth sphere thing. The third sphere, we've got, let's do the abyss here. This is our psychic powers. In addition to, the more exotic forms, psychokinesis and, remote viewing and all those kind of more exotic ones, the main aspect of the psychic powers is your ability to recognize omens and to act upon omens. Psychic heat, psychic receptivity and psychic heat, respectively. Then at the third sphere, we have omnipotence, all-powerful. This has to do with like synchronization through sound, primarily, and being able to do anything humanly possible. So, omnipotence, even though it's all powerful, it doesn't imply that you can do things that are like outside of the realm of a human being. So, you can't, do things that are, that you haven't really seen other people do, or that you haven't at least imagined yourself being able to do. So, there's a limit. And same with omniscience, all-knowing. This is not our ability, we can't, just say, how many hairs do I have on my head? This is really wisdom, our ability to solve problems. We can solve all our problems. And then the first sphere is omnipresence, all present, all at once, eternally. So it's really like everything. And, as I said in a previous video recently, I think it boils down to geometric shapes. There's a geometry that underlies the universe, and it takes place at the very, very micro level. And this is really like the ether. This is the substratum of the universe that underlies everything. And then the zero, whereas the one is underlying everything, the zero is really underlying the one. And the zero is nothing. So there's a nothingness aspect also to the universe, or at least to, reality. And that also represents the mystery. Now, what I've done in my 144 fractal faculties model is I've taken the whole tree, all 12 categories, and I've superimposed a miniature tree on each one of the spheres. So I've broken each one of the spheres down for pedagogical purposes into a separate 12. So you have a total of 144 different fractal faculties. And again, you can click the link below if you'd like to get a free copy of the annotated version of that. Now, the question that we asked today is, how do we, how do we experience pleasure without becoming too attached to it? That is stage number 38. Those 144 fractal faculties are really stages in life, stages in history. But the stages are not chronological stages, but they are dramatic stages. So there's a little act going on, 144 different acts going on that we move around between. And this stage number 38, which is called ritual pleasure, is really the 9th fractal of the 7th sphere. So you got a little tree here on the 7th sphere, and it's the 9th fractal within the 7th sphere. Ritual pleasure. Stage number 38 is about learning to harness our pleasurable experiences into a spiritual purpose through repetition, or how to harness our pleasurable experiences into a spiritual application through disciplined repetition or ritual. Pleasures keep reflecting themselves in our awareness, motivating us to remember them. So we commemorate them, we ritualize them. A social or collective mnemonic, elaborated. Cultivating pleasure need not be cultish. Elevate, exalt. By commemorating, we try to put a healthy, nurturing structure or context onto our pleasures. Without memorization, pleasure carries a danger of morbidity, addictions, selfishness, declension, and infighting. We are able to enjoy the pleasure, but at the same time establish limits to avoid abuse, complete with taboos, through ritualizing pleasure. In the ceremony, a memorization continually reminds us what we are supposed to be doing, what we are there to do, our stated purpose. The pleasure is just the spark. We must then elevate it, cultivate it. So let's do it again, but let's do it with discernment. Refreshing pleasure, a repeated enactment, disciplined, for jogging our memory without interrupting the flow of the proceedings. Pleasure practice. Pleasure orients us toward the spirit, but it can be dangerous when the pleasure becomes the goal, rather than the path toward the goal. Ritual traps receptivity. It's the surest way for the whole community, for the whole group, to contact the world of spirit. What is the ritual's aim? The obvious dangers of addiction, etc., are mitigated through a disciplined practice, including the pleasure. The pleasure is only allowed within the constraints of the practice. Okay, that's number 38, ritual pleasure. That's also known as new moonics, like new moon as in ritual time. The new moon is a ancient time for doing rituals. And I think next video, or very soon, I'm going to do one that is the counterpart to that. So the counterpart, or the inverse, will be the 7th fractal of the 9th sphere. And that one is called mnemonic devices. So this one is new moonics, and the next one is going to be mnemonics. And again, you know, the ninth sphere has a lot to do with memory, and the seventh sphere has to do with our pleasure principle. So we're kind of using both aspects in both of these videos, mnemonics and mnemonics. And this one was the mnemonics. Again, click the link below if you'd like to have me send you a copy of the annotated versions of all of these 144 different videos, and that will help you keep score at home, so that if you watch any of these, if you watch a lot of them, you can kind of cross-reference and, you know, maybe even make some predictions about which one is going to be about what. And you can also click the link, go to the description and click the like button, share, and subscribe. Until next time, have a beautiful day.